Hello, my name is Donald, and we are here at Blue Spirit Gallery at the Black Artists, Black Lives exhibition, and currently speaking to Jessica Felder.
Yes, yeah, Jessica Scott Felder.
Jessica Scott Felder. Sorry
You
about
got
that.
it. No, it's cool.
Yes.
It's cool. Yes.
Yeah. So I guess I can start off with your installation. I'm not too keen on installation, so can you explain that for me?
Okay, so this is from a philosophical standpoint, but for me, as an installation artist, it's basically where an artist takes separate parts and puts them together in a space that changes the dynamics of the space in some way.
Okay. So, as an artist, how did you come upon this practice?
That's a wonderful question. As a draftsperson, I really enjoy taking up lots and lots of space. So my work is inherently large. I work anywhere from 3 to 6 feet on up to 15 feet. So it ranges in scale exponentially, and I just love to cover walls. So in grad school, I had to fill an entire exhibition space by myself, and I just saw it as a great opportunity to fill that space up with an installation sort of work. So as a result of that, I work with everything from furniture to cloth to whatever it takes to take over the space and envelop the viewer with an experience.
Right. So, speaking on space, right? Whenever you are coming up with your installation, I'm sure that the space informs the installation a lot. Can you tell me about that process a little bit?
Specifically for this space, because my work is primarily site specific, so I like to first do research on the space. And being in Spartanburg for 10 years and also working on the Spartanburg Cultural Monument or Southside Cultural Monument, I learned a lot about the history of Spartanburg. So investing in 5 years worth of research and history to that, I learned that Spartanburg has a really rich and vibrant history in regards to sports and culture, as well as some very significant contributions on a national scale. So for this space in particular, there's been a lot of conversation around Irwin Park, which is a park that is currently under review for a reinvention,
right.
Which, to put it in a simpler term. And so to be a part of that, as a part of the steering committee for that, I've been learning a lot about the history of Irwin Park. So Irwin Park is also one of the first few parks that allowed for African Americans were allowed to play sports in this case, baseball and tennis. So in learning that, I started with that as a site-specific story. And from there, I just ended up finding objects that were naturally just, I guess, drawn to me. Yeah. And one of the first objects was that portrait of that young man holding a baseball bat. And so in learning about that, I said, this has got to be something that I talk about in my work. And I just started to pile on more information, collect more objects. In this case, I collected a net, a baseball. It's like something you would do if you were practicing baseball.
In the batting cage.
In the batting cages.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So this material is connected to this narrative, from the park to the young boy's photo, but also the tennis racket that it's cradled on. Again, thinking about the young man being cradled in that space.
Right.
It's just a way of being able to tell the story through objects.
Awesome. I love that. So, yes, this resembles a batting cage, but I'm also being really drawn into this space through this kind of almost vortex shape that you have going on. Can you explain that a little bit?
So, I have been labeled a Afrofuturist artist.
Okay.
I do like to imagine spaces and when you enter a space to be a installation artist, you already have to come in with some sense of imagination and intention. And so I just find science fiction to be one of those spaces where you can kind of imagine the best things, the biggest things. And so for me, my dad used to talk to me a lot about black holes. And he said, what's the most powerful force in the universe? And I said, what? He would say, black holes. And so from that, I made this correlation with strength and blackness in a way.
Right.
And so tying those two together, I looked more into that narrative, into that story. And also how even to come up with a theory in physics requires some degree of imagination and openness.
Right.
And curiosity. And so I saw it as a way of playing and being able to tell a story outside of one's own knowing. So I use the black hole in many ways, similar to how Octavia Butler utilized the wormhole in Kindred, when the character had to travel from the 1970s back in time to the antebellum South during slavery. Thinking about ways that writers and other creatives have utilized science fiction, but also science to tell stories about Blackness. So that's kind of what that's wrapped into. But also, this is pointing to North. This is pointing to North. So again, thinking about that American narrative around, and American folklore as well, in regards to Harriet Tubman traveling from the South to the North.
Interesting. Man, getting a whole history lesson.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to wrap my mind around all of it. It's beautiful. That was a
Thank
beautiful
you.
statement,
Thank
by the
you.
way.
And these are also like at the heart of who I am.
Right.
I'm a drafts person. I love to draw. So this for me is like drawing in 3D.
Okay. And I've heard that from a lot of other installation artists, that it's like drawing, and I don't know, like I'm trying to connect it, and just the way y'all's minds work is just really interesting. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And my last question for you, I know you said Afrofuturism, and you're dealing with a lot of histories, right? How does those two kind of things play with each other? Afrofuturism with looking towards the future and making it what you want, but also dealing with these contexts.
Well, folklore has been the way that many communities, that many cultures have resolved unknown questions. Mm-hmm. So in slavery, there was a traverse, a carrying of Black bodies from Africa to the American South. One of those stories that stands out most for me is the story involving the Igbo people off of the coast of St. Simons in Georgia. There was a group of people that drowned as a result of that traverse. It was about 13 Igbo people who drowned, and they disappeared. But the story that was told to kind of rest those spirits was that they grew wings and they flew back.
Oh, wow.
So this idea of imagination is about resolving problems or resolving things that we encounter every day through means that can help us transform, that can help us be able to move forward. So it's like Sankofa. It's like moving forward by reaching back.
Awesome. Man, I love that. I love that.
Thank you. I'm Jessica Scott Felder. I can be found on Instagram at Jessica Scott Felder. I have a website, www.jessicascottfelder.com. And you can email me through my website.